Welcome to today's session. Here we are, the speakers for today. I'm Kirthikka Devi Venkataram. As you all know, I'm a lead at Women Who Code Data Science community. I hold 10 years of experience working with multiple industry verticals of B2B segments, especially with automotive, telecommunication service, and AI startup. Here I am to present to you as a panelist and as a moderator for today's session. Here we have Sahana Venkatesh. Let me get an introduction from Sahana Venkatesh from herself. Sahana, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sahana. I'm a senior machine learning engineer at the Jaguar Land Rover. I'm based out of London, UK. My team kind of focuses on proactively finding issues in cars like flat tire, etc., before they actually happen. That's a bit about me.
Excellent, Sahana. So we have one more speaker who has signed up, and she is on her way. Before we get introduced to the topic, I would just like to give a quick introduction about her. She is Ria Shivru. She'll be joining us shortly. And let me get her profile.
Oh, hi, Kirthikka. I'm actually in here now, so I'm happy to do the intro.
Yes, please, Ria.
Okay, awesome. Hey, everyone. My name is Ria Cheruvu. I'm an AI software architect and generative AI evangelist at Intel Corporation. We just went through a minor kind of power outage, so I'll be turning on my camera to join you all in just a couple minutes. But it's great to be here with you all and talk about goal setting for the future. I also have a master's in data science from Harvard University, and I'm very passionate about teaching data science curricula.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I would just like to spotlight three of us. Just don't mind me doing it. Okay. I'll just pin Ria as well. Okay. So once Ria is back, I'll just spotlight her. Just getting into today's session. New hopes, fresh thoughts, active environment, and carefully grained and groomed landscape of life. Do you think I'm being a dreamer here? A creative dreamer? A designer? Definitely not. Bringing the fragrance of chocolate, vividness of light, with deeper understanding of one's own self. Bringing this year's last event, let's celebrate and welcome the new year, gathering together for the exclusive Bytes and Brew session, light session 2023. Okay, let's get into the topic. It's professional and educational goal setting 2024. Yes, we are approaching New Year. Organizations have already set or have started retrospecting the last quarter results, and they are in the process of setting goals aligning with the vision of the organization. Say, for example, an organization might be interested in investing in a new project, gaining momentum to provide the dividend that they have received as a payout to their employees or vendors, or they are trying to invest in some other vertical. There might be merger and acquisition that is being planned shortly. There might also be resource setting, headcount planning for their future, for the future year. Starting with the organization's vision, it drills down to mission, then it goes down to understanding the values of the organization, then we get into the goals, the actual goals the organization is planning, following up with the strategy and the action plan that is planned. So let's say, how is a goal being defined? Say, Sahana, I would like to start with you. What do you understand or what do you see as a goal to you? How do you see a goal to you?
Goal, in my opinion, are basically characteristics of my future self. I give myself freedom to modify them at any point. I believe goals should be flexible, but they should be rigid enough to give you some directions. This comes from my basic my own thought, and also what you mentioned earlier, I'm also a dreamer, and I also believe that we create our own happiness. Having goals helps us to make action based decisions, to find whether something works for you or not. Basically, it's a tool for me to get somewhere.
That's definitely commendable. Yes, of course, it needs a time bounding and we need to focus on certain action and the commitment that we are rendering. Okay. Let's start with Ria. Ria, would you be comfortable starting now?
Absolutely. Yep. And I'm also going ahead and logging in via the Zoom link. So please go ahead.
Yes, please. What do you think goals are and how do you see goals?
So I think that goals are a structured element towards where you want to go at the end. And I think it's a beautiful way of thinking about goals as stepping stones. That means that even if you may miss one particular stepping stone, that means that there's always something that is in mind that's ready for you to be able to tackle on later on. So when we think about goals as kind of this progression, I think that it's interesting to think about when we're planning frameworks as well. How do we structure these goals in a way that is leading to an achievement, an accomplishment, a skill set that we're adding to our resume, or things like this. So I guess that's the initial perspective. And as I mentioned, if we miss goals, if there are goals that change in relation to our achievement, for example, maybe a new development in your field, if you're a data scientist that you're wanting to learn immediately, so you may have to adjust your original goals, it's perfectly okay in order to get to the final objective.
Wonderful. Since you touched upon setting number of goals, let me just give a short introduction about what goals are and how did they evolve. There are a lot of self-purpose belief system like research validated theories, as well as proven track success records, living examples we have seen who have achieved their goals. Let me quote a few here, like bringing us an understanding in a variety of thought process undergone as a goal-setting theory. Goal-setting theory is a term that was coined by Edwin A. Law, a professor, a retired dean professor of motivation and leadership at a business school. In his publication, he mentions goals as being characterized as two main aspects, one being the content and the other being intensity. Content is your choose and achievement. What do you choose to achieve? The intensity, the quantity of physical and mental strength and the resource that you need to achieve. So which means like content and intensity goes hand in hand in many ways, in multiple directions and in many ways. This is being projected in his publication, like which is called as Towards a Theory of Task Motivation and Incentive. There are multiple quotes that leaders have coined about goals. One which I want to quote about goals is like my version of goal, a focused component, a focal point in the strategic pyramid, which is to be realized, which needs a realization, a tangible realization into a tangible outcome, and that is defined over a period of time. Let me also quote about goals, which has been mentioned by few other prominent members. The first is like, I would start the first goal statement, which is from one of the former US First Lady, Michelle Obama. She says, always stay true to yourself and never let what somebody says distract you from your goals. And one more statement, which is provided by Earl Nightingale. She is the author of the book, The Strangest Secret. She says, success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. She focuses on the micro successes, which means micro wins compounding over a period of time gives you a satisfaction and it throws an improvement point in. Similarly, Brian Tracy, who says in her book, Goals, he is an author, a motivation speaker, a self-development author, basically. He says in his book, Goals, how to get everything you want faster than you ever thought possible. He's quoting, you must have one goal that if you accomplish it, can do more to help you improve your life than any other single goal. And there is a contrasting ideology about goal, which was stated by Michael Phelps, the famous world champion in swimming. He says, I think goals should never be easy. They should force you to work, even if they are uncomfortable at the time. So these are certain thought process that is like about goals. There are a lot many ideologies that you understand about goals, which I also perceive from you both. You say one person says it is time bound, and the other person says there has to be rigid number of goals, and the other and me, I myself say there has to be n number of goals for specific point in time, which needs to be time bound. So there are different ideologies which we have by our understanding as goals. So how do you see from your end, like how goals have defined you? What was the success point that you have achieved understanding goals and uh, actually following some framework, which we will speak shortly? First, I would like to understand from Sahana.
Sorry. That's a very great question, and I believe that I share the same thought process as well. It makes sense to have like n goals, not just one, and like not going deep into the framework. The way I set goals is like sit by self-reflection, imagining what a good day looks for me from the beginning to the end, and separate all those things that make me happy into professional and personal buckets. Look at the current state of affairs in those buckets, and then like try to find achievable goals that could help me to get there.
That's absolutely true. Ria, why don't you add your comments?
Yeah, sure. I completely agree with what Sahana mentioned. I think that having, that personal and professional buckets really allows us to develop as individuals, because there are sometimes some things that even from a learning perspective, you might want to attribute to, personal learning that might be different from what you're doing in the professional workspace, or even similar, or some new project that you want to embark on that maybe your career as part of your workspace doesn't allow you to make time for practically. So I think that my idea is very similar. I do believe in multiple goals. I think, Kirthikka, you mentioned an awesome quote about, the regimen of keeping your goals intact as well, and, being made to kind of get out of your comfort zone. I think I completely agree with those elements. I know that one of the other things in today's fast-paced world, as I mentioned earlier, though, is also being able to, identify which goals are worth your time and may not be worth your time. Maybe again, there are some things that you just need to prioritize because it's the thing that you need to learn as part of work to be dangerous in that topic, or something like that. But those goals should definitely be flexible and changeable to your interests and your needs, because that can quickly change. What is interesting one day might not be interesting the other. So I think goals as a framework and planning should represent that commitment, ideally. And I do the same as well. I definitely have tried many of the different frameworks to define goals out there, and like the Getting Things Done framework and productivity frameworks like Pomodoro and others. And I think the best one is to kind of start the week with an idea of what you're going to do, and then also consistently thinking about the bigger picture. How does this contribute to my career? How does this contribute to my passion? I think that those elements help you line up the achievements and accomplishments and the goals towards them that you're really looking for.
I have to actually resonate both of your ideas in this aspect, because it's going to be the environmental stimuli that you have. It's the motivation factor which comes into picture. It also needs a cognition, the way that you perceive, how you wanted to take up goals. It is also tied up with the way that you implement it. How are you planning the strategy that you are forming to implement the goals? Obviously, it's time bound. We need to have a time check, and we need to see the results that we get out of the goals that we set and the way that we move forward. It starts with the daily activity. I should also add here, like daily, weekly, monthly, and bi-monthly. Then goes 6 months period of time. We need to have a rigorous check on the original goals that we have set, and we also have to align with the daily activity, which is getting boosted up on a day-to-day basis. This starts with the habitual way, by the way that you tune yourself. Say, for example, you start a new activity to happen every 2 minutes. I mean, every day, 2 minutes. to start reading a book or just clean up your desk, whatever it might be the case. It might also be like to check your new email, to also start a book review or something like that. Start writing a blog for 5 minutes. Just dedicate your time for doing it. And obviously, it starts getting tied up with your professional goals. When you have to create a vision for yourself, vision for working with a team, having a overall strategy to form a team, to handle a team, or in the organization level, if you are participating on a co-curricular activity, it obviously helps. So this personal and professional goals are not going to be separated out these days, and we are going to have it hand in hand. So this is important aspect that we need to understand. Like there are certain principles that we need to set, like setting the specific goal, providing feedback on a regular basis, self-feedback as well as third peer reviewed feedback, and commitment. What is the commitment level that you give to the goals? Then comes the resources that you need. You just try to get all the resources in hand before in hand. Moving forward, working on the strategy and the action plan that you're going to set with the goals. Then the environmental uncertainty, you are going to also plan the risk factor which is lying behind. So we would not know, like if we would be able to handle the planned task on a daily basis, there might be a lot of uncertainties happening, just like as we are had now. So we must be able to handle a lot of things in or be prepared in beforehand, executing the goals, like forming in the strategy and in our action plan as well. So this comes as a trait to become a better leader as well. How do you see leadership, and do you have any examples, or do you mind me sharing your story as a leader in this goal setting process? I would like to hear from you both. Let's start with Sahana.
Yeah, I won't call myself a leader in goal setting for sure, but because I think there's still like a lot of progress for me to make. But frankly, having a goal and having vision has gotten me through like so many tough situations like job hunting or getting used to a new environment. It just makes me like handle an uncontrollable situation with a bit of control. And like Kritika beautifully mentioned, the thought that was going in my head is like this is like project management, and that's frankly how I see things in my life, to just take a step back, looking at my job hunting as a project, looking at like getting used to a new country, new company as a project, has actually helped me to make some progress better. That's how I find this framework like actually adding a lot of benefits to my life. And like you said, um, it just takes a lot of personal feelings out, like as much as analytical as it sounds, sometimes taking it out actually helps in like handling yourself better. Like and also I keep a lot of personal goals. Make, for example, like to share my own personal example, in 2023 one of my personal goals was to have a family connection better. And that's, as a person living abroad, having family in a different country, it is as again as analytical as it sounds, making it as a goal help, and regularly checking in it help me to make some tangible progress in that. Like and I try to like both of those amazing speakers have mentioned, that I try to keep a tangible metric to it, like speak to my parents 20 minutes a day, and that those things. And the day this keeps in this way, like the having a vision and having a goal had made me to have better communication in my personal life. Similarly to job hunting, I try to keep tangible metrics, like apply to 5 companies, seek feedback from your friends, as all these as like goals, tangible goals, and keep working on it. And believe me, it also helped me to handle failures better, because it's just like I get that satisfaction of doing the tick mark. Okay, 5 interviews done, even though some of them don't work out, at least I got one tick in my vision board.
That's wonderful to mention about your vision board, like, and also mention about the way that you handle job hunting as a project management or seeing it from a project management as perspective. So, Ria. Okay, so yeah, sure. Let me chime in here. I also had an opportunity to handle myself in a lot of complex situation and a lot of complex working environment, as well as in my professional life, to have a vision for myself. Like, why am I doing this? What is the purpose for me to handle such a complexity? Do I really have to put in so much of hard work? What is the end result, outcome? What am I going to get? Without knowing it, I would not be able to get into any of the tasks. Say, for example, in the professional environment, you will not be valued without having a tangible outcome that you show. You need to show results. Obviously, you need to also understand the requisite. What is the level of commitment that you are supposed to give from your end so that you get a tangible outcome to yourself as well as to the team, to the organization on a whole. So this has helped me, like not from the perspective of handling as an individual, but from the perspective of managing myself from different things like risk handling. How do I have to endure a difficult situation in case my plans failure? That was my first thought process when I get into any of the activity that I involved in. It's like a kind of inversing or inversion mental model that I used to think about the way because of a lot of success and failures that I've seen in my life. It's like I will initially think, yes, success is good. I am going to achieve it on a whole. But if there is going to be a failure, I have to proactively think beforehand, before stepping into myself, into the shoes of a particular task or into the shoes of helping out others or involving myself in a non-profit organization like this or involving myself in the organization vertical on a co-curricular activity or task-based or team-oriented approach to handle a team or something like that. Everywhere I need to plan myself accordingly. Apart from this, I have also endured undeniable defeats, undeniable failures, which gave me a lot of strength to move forward. So here I have set myself to understand the why in me. The golden circle has helped me. Simon Sinek's golden circle has helped me a lot in understanding the why, the purpose. Why do you do this? Is core belief for me, myself as a person, to derive my personal goal as well as to derive my professional goal. What is the purpose of me doing this? And how I'm going to handle it if there is a failure in case for my team not supporting me, or there is a customer-driven approach where there is high pressure to deliver the task from my end as a contributor or to handle as a team. I have handled both the situations in a highly escalating mode as well as in a much relaxed mode. So they were both the instances that I have encountered. In these cases, I just go through how I'm going to do this. I just make myself comfortable in ensuring a framework that suits that particular instance. Then what is that I'm going to achieve? What is the team is going to achieve? I am just going to share what the results to the team and how is the team going to benefit. And I see a lot of my reportees who have worked. I've handled small teams, small miniature teams, I would say. All of the team members have got benefited out of it with my lead. I am proud about it, though it is irrelevant right now in due course of time, because obviously it's going to be little kind of diluted over a period of time. But I can proudly say all of my team members, all of the reporters, the technical reporters who have reported to me have got benefited. So this is a kind of inspiration for me, a motivation for me. Ria, how do you see this?
I completely agree, Kirthikka, and I love what both you and Sahana have shared, both like the project management kind of angle or product management angle, and also each of the examples you cited immediately resonate with me, whether exactly as you mentioned, it's that, high pressure deliverable that you need to get to next to the holidays, and you're kind of pushing your team as a team leader and like a contributor to, get like that last mile, or it's a relaxing environment where you still need to set accountability and enforceability of certain goals, right, within the corporate environment, because you need to hit the deliverables, although it seems like it's okay. And I think there's a number of different uncertainties too. And I love how you mentioned like today with power outages and things like that, I've had issues like that when having to meet with my senior management. And it happened, unfortunately. So I think that, both personal and professional wise, that has really helped inform my goals. From a professional perspective, being able to empathize with my team, connect with them and understand them better, but also not necessarily getting into, micromanaging where you're actually aligning your goals with their goals to see how they progress. And then similarly on a personal perspective, being able to perfect myself, to be able to, have, these backups when certain things occur, be able to deliver myself more professionally and things like that, I think are kind of key to put in line. And one thing that I want to add to what both of you shared is that a lot of times many individuals and organizations have goals that they may put on top of you. That's not necessarily a bad thing. For example, you may have like your OKRs for your company or, your company-wide objectives. And, that helps align your work to the goals of the company. But other times some individuals may come in and say, hey, can you do XYZ for me? Or, can you develop XYZ maybe personally or professionally? And outside of your manager, maybe your direct team, I would definitely recommend thinking about that feedback critically. Does it make sense for me right now? And things like that. It's something I personally struggled with a lot in terms of, saying yes to all the advice that came my way. But one of my colleagues who is amazing, a former manager, said to me, don't take all the advice you get. You got to critically think about it. And I think that is so true for goals because at the end of the day, they define who you are, right? So.
Very true. So we touched upon the OKRs, the objectives, key results.
Yep.
Organizations obviously focus on business perspective and they want the economy to be driven. So nobody is willing to spend a penny of money or a penny without showing results. There are few organizations which are like research oriented, where they have a long-term goal. Obviously, they do have a long-term goal. Like micro success that they see in this R&D spending that they do, like Google, I would say they do a lot of research-based outcomes and they culminate it, provide it into a fruitful product over a period of time. They just have such research-based approach that is going on. Similarly, when we have to align with our personal goals, we cannot say like no to the OKRs of the organization because it's the vision driven approach that is like top down model, which is highly what to say, it is the only way that the organization is driven. We do not have any other way. There might be matrix based management. The management might differ. It might be like a projectized way of handling resources. It might be a matrix way of handling resources. But when we think about the organization, it is obviously driven by the vision. We cannot change this, and we have to align our goals accordingly. We need to say, yes, I have aligned my goals. I have shown these results. I have given you so much of profit. Why don't you give me an opportunity to show my own personal passion, my own zeal? Yeah, that is obviously required. As a person, as a contributor, I also need a way because I cannot start a company on my own. I'm not an investor. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an employee to your company. Still, I owe my rights to ask you like, yes, why don't you give me an opportunity? Obviously, this is a wonderful thought process that Riya, you have brought in. And yes, how do you see this, Sahana?
That's a very interesting way you put it. Like, introducing your personal objective too. We just had this exercise where we were supposed to write down objectives, the company business objectives, which I'll be responsible for, that tied to the company. And we also my team also emphasized on adding a personal objective. That is something that's related to us, still related to my career, like working on some certifications or attending conferences, but then something that ignites the passion I have for the field, that is probably not tied to the business metric. It may provide tangible results to the company over time, because of the investment they made on me for pursuing my personal objective. But this one's like the name says, it's personal, is to just give me more strengthen my for my skill development or something, basically to just keep me more interested in data science. Yeah, that's probably I agree to like try having some personal feelings tied to the objectives, even if it's set in a company environment.
That's definitely true. You have to have a alignment with your manager and upper management, aligning with the organization goals, like what do they want this year? What is their focal point? Where do they want to invest, and how are you going to help them out with your own personal goals? I obviously said that we also wanted to grow professionally and personally. It's not like kind of doing certification is your own professional, your own personal goal. It is obviously going to help the company. You're going to invest your time and energy doing the work, as well as you're going to get yourself like strengthened up in a skill area where you would be able to contribute to the company inside or outside. Probably it might also be your open source coding platform where you would be investing, and that might also bring laurel to the company. Yes, said this, let me just give how goal setting discussion is conducted in an organization. Like, we need to identify who are the stakeholders who are involved. Like, the goal setting process or discussion goes top down, as a top down approach. We start with the organization level. Like, organization leads first decide what is the this year's goal. Then it is rolled out to the division level, then to the department level, and then to the team, ultimately to the individuals who are there working for an employee. So in this top-down approach, how you are going to match yourself bottom to top with the organization goals is a key. How are you going to tune yourself? Say, for example, the organization might not be interested in allowing you to do a certification for this year because there might be a shortage in their own budget. But how are you going to give them get their acceptance? That is a key. So you might be able to invest on your own initially, and then you might be able to get reimbursement later. So that is also a point. Since Hannah touched upon this particular example, I will just have to add on this. Say, for example, there might be a different personal goal. I might be interested in getting a mentorship program to be up in the organization. Since because it is a kind of way to inculcate much more engineers to drive the skill level and to also align with the organization goal. The organization initially might be hesitant to support this because we don't know how much of time and energy that will be spent on mentoring. It is also a kind of waste of time from their own perspective, provided their business their business maturity and their standpoint in the market. They might be driven by some other competitive factors which they have to run behind. So in this instance, we'll have to align with the organization goal, and we'll have to do a checkpoint, or we'll have to conduct the leaders meet, a one-to-one meet, I would say, not at least the managers meet, a one-to-one meet with the leadership teams, that you give your own thought process and you give your own suggestion and idea to them so that it gets into their mind, and maybe during some point in time in a year, they'll be able to implement it. And that is how I see. I see like a lot of organizations are supportive in this particular aspect. They are customer driven. They are human centric and customer driven. We need to understand what customer want, and we also need to understand what our organization wants. That is the ultimate goal of working in a B2B. It also holds to B2C, B2B, B2C, and every single segment that we are working and we are known to. I would say, yeah, Ria, please.
Oh, definitely. I absolutely agree with everything you said, Kirthikka. It's just on dot because yes, and I have the same experience as well. You know, mentorship can be complicated from a time perspective of the person who's doing the mentoring. And I've been on both sides of it. I know that there's a lot of organizations, and I'm grateful to work in a company that prioritizes mentorship programs and has frameworks. And I know I was mentioning earlier, the idea about advice and it originating around goals, and mentors are honestly the best folks to actually ping and to get their advice on. And my mentors have been incredibly helpful for me, just because, they help reorient you. I remember my mentor telling me something 6 months ago this year that I had initially kind of brushed aside, thinking, oh, I'm not really going to think about that right now. And actually, right now, I'm thinking about it very seriously. So I think mentorship is one of those journeys that is very goal oriented, but also where your mentor may see where you have been, especially women in tech. They know the struggles that you're facing, the challenges that you're overcoming, and they have advice for you because they've been in that same position. Or if you have more of a special case, they're able to help orient you towards the right direction, which is fantastic to be able to see. I also completely agree with what Kirthikka mentioned as well, which is voicing your concerns. And I think in and of itself, that can be a goal. Being able to stand up for your opinion, for being able to voice to your management, or even in a personal level to open source communities you're contributing to, and elements like that. What exactly you want to get out of it, or the type of things that you need or want, can be critical. And especially, I think that reflects on anyone in technology and data science too, because it's such a fast-paced field. I guess the focus is always on performance, on getting a great value out of the data. And as individuals, we work really hard because we have a very large field spanning a lot of different things. The same can be said for many other fields, but of course, data science has its unique elements and adjacent fields. So that's something that's very interesting to consider in the format of creating goals that aren't exhaustible, but bring you out of your comfort zone and aligning them with what your mentor is recommending.
Exactly. Sahana, please put on your thoughts.
Beautiful emphasis on the mentorship. There've been like multiple instances of in my career where I actually have sought out paid mentorship. First two companies I've worked for in my career were startups. We were focused on handling out products, obviously, but there isn't enough people in the organization, and there wasn't enough opportunities for me to find mentors within my own company. And one of my goal became to like find mentors, and I started attending like meetups around me, like regular meetups after work. They like the point Kritika mentioned earlier about like finding your why, exposing yourself to like multiple different careers out there, hearing about others' careers experiences and perspective have been like really helpful for me to understand like what could be my goals. To put it into one sentence, you need to know what your options are to even select those. And on the sharing more about the mentorship, I've been really I was in a before my paid mentorship and like experiences, I was like quite kind of unsure about like what I exactly wanted of my career and what is that career, my dream job or the dream roles, what is it called. But speaking with a mentor helped to keep some focus and clarity and that discipline I needed to approach this in a very rigorous way. Yeah, they help me to set goals also, like definitely having someone who can mentor you. And be it this is not just in career setting, but even like profession setting, you can choose to have mentors in like any field of life you want, and take their help in like setting out goals in those.
True. Speaking in this line of thought, like startups definitely need kind of orientation from the experts as well as from freshers, I would say, the fresh minds. They need reverse mentoring. They have they might be a chance or possibility that they might get distracted from the actual problem that they wanted to solve because they have a lot of ideas, but they wouldn't be able to put them in place with the customer requirements. What does a customer need? They might not be able to do all the research by themselves. Instead, they can get a reverse mentoring kind of approach with this like for setting their product vision might be, or for gearing up their product vertical. It might be to a different geographical location, or it might also be to add new features to it. So it is highly helpful to startups. In this line of thought, we need to understand what is your North Star. It is not only pertaining to your profession, it is not only pertaining to your personal goal, like what is your North Star, what is the issue that you want to solve, and how are you going to approach it, what are the resources that is in need of. It also pertains to the issue that you are going to solve professionally, identifying your North Star. And what are the distractions that is going to come in place if you are going to solve your North Star. All these are to be considered carefully before we get into a discussion with the startup or with any of the leaders that we ask for support, like professionally, how to be assisted and how they might be of assistance to grow your career. So I completely agree with both of your thought process, and it's wonderful to have such a welcoming and warm discussion moving forward. So speaking in this line of thought, what does a manager have to do? Like, what do you think a manager have to do to comfort their employees, aligning with the organization goals and to set themselves free out of tension? How does goal setting process going to help them? Just give your thought process. I'll start with Ria.
Okay, sure thing. This is a wonderful question, very interesting one, because it kind of brings back a lot of different experiences. And I just want to say really quickly, I think the way that you phrase the startup ecosystem is amazing as well. I've worked with multiple startups and the same reactivity, the same kind of uncertainty is mentioned. And I think the same concept also can apply here, one central concept, which is organizations are made of people. I mean, it's eventually, the CEO and the C-level, executive staff that has the North Star that's driving the entire company forward. And that trickles down to the management as well. So I think with managers, I've had many experiences. I've been in different groups within Intel. I've also worked externally in academic orgs, and again, partnering with, startups and the open source community. I think that there's definitely some elements. I'm grateful to have had positive experiences with all my managers. In certain cases, for a role where your team is working on something and you have a different personal goal or different North Star, as Kirthikka mentioned, there may be cases where you need to work independently. And what I've seen is the best factor for growth is your manager allows you to do that, in a sense that they're building kind of not necessarily a bubble, but a path for you to be able to go and explore that. For example, for me, I was working in a hardcore engineering role when I had first joined Intel full-time. And I actually wanted to get into research and look at something that no one had looked at before, like reinforcement learning. And I actually had the opportunity to do that, talking with my manager and team lead, setting up a goal, and then connecting that research back to the implementation. On the other hand, you don't necessarily want to be fully free. And I've experienced that as well, which is, you're given, you're an individual pathfinder. If you have the interest to do that, it's totally fine. But, having and setting goals with your manager is absolutely critical. So they may come to you with certain goals, and it's your objective and your responsibility to be able to align that to what you like so that your interests are being put forth. But also, it's a good idea to push back on your manager if for any reason something looks a little vague, because they have the insight into the organization, so you can extract more value out of them. So just to summarize, I'd say there's these two angles, right? The creation of a path for you specifically, so you're not conforming just to the company's objectives as a manager. That's an important role. And then also not necessarily letting your employee be free and having to define their own objectives and connect and network. As a manager, ideally, you are developing that network, similar to a team lead, which, I've been a team lead. I know that it can be challenging to balance all these things, but it's absolutely necessary for the team that you're going to be working with.
That's definitely. Sahana, would you like to add your comments?
I agree with that. I think I think like I mentioned, where we recently had this experience of setting goals for my organization, and like Ria beautifully put forward, it usually normally starts with like a product owner or someone who's sharing broader picture of what are the goals the team works on, and a team lead or the manager would assign different roles to it, like based on the team's capacity. There are in that way you have some breadcrumbs to get started with. Like you would you know what projects you're working on, and if you're already working on this project, you have better you'll start to have like better insights on what will happen in the upcoming quarters. And also there's always flexibility, and not very very rarely do I see a manager pushing back when you like put forward a goal which is not mentioned by the product owner, but then there's this goal that could benefit the team's productivity, and you have come up with it. Normally people are welcome to those ideas. So those you have some there are always flexibilities for you to add those that may not that are outside the realm of what expected from you, and those are the ones which will long term would set you apart from the other people working in your team and organization, and gives you an overall satisfaction of contributing to the organization beyond your day-to-day roles.
So I completely see a different approach of way that has been dealt by both of your managers. Like there has been a positive way of handling where they have provided an opportunity to grow, and there was also some instance where they wanted you to not to support on certain vertical, which is of not their interest. From my point of view, I have encountered both of this. Like I was provided an opportunity to do a master's where I was holding a master's already. It wasn't necessary for me to invest on that. Instead, it was an organization-driven goal, and it was to be taken up by somebody, which wasn't relevant to me by the end of the day. When I wanted to have a PhD, like kind of much more relevant to me in my field of work, but that will also enrich my own personal and professional goals, where I was trying to gather much of the research-oriented approach in my line of work. There wasn't much drive from the organization front. It might be because of many reasons. It might be because of the manager himself or by the organization leadership that it was being handled, or there wasn't any kind of support that is being driven at that point in time. There might be many reasons that is there. But there were also instances where I should quote, like there were approaches where I was provided a personal kind of orientation at certain times where there was in need of it, like a break time, a small break time, which is required for me. But even that is so going to rejuvenate you, a long-term goal for you as a person, as well as to contribute to your profession, is like kind of hindered there. You were not able to grow there, where you need to think again, like how is your goal and the organization goal, which is being aligned, is it being aligned, and how is it being taken forward? If there was an opportunity which is provided to another person over a period of time where you were not able to take that particular opportunity, it is going to hurt you. So there are also emotional triggers which you need to handle in this line, in this particular instance. So as a manager, how is an emotional trigger is being handled is quite important. And a manager has the responsibility to handle it in a much more better way, providing equal opportunity to every reportee that he is assigned to, irrespective of gender identity, the geographical location, the demography that he comes in, the skill set that he possesses, or the number of years of experience that he has held and holding with the organization. So all these factors have to be considered without bias, so that the manager has to act as or he should have a binge of leaders trait in him, so that blooms out to the team, proliferating the team's success, as well as the enthusiasm and the energy level is boosted up. The motivation is quite important, and that is what is being suffered. That is what is less in much of the team, and that is what is being suffered in turn, which is thrown into the employees, where we see like there is a lot of employee retention activity that is carried out in the organization. And organization is also spending a lot to emphasize on skilled employees to be retaining with them, which is difficult these days because they have the skill and they move quite easily, and they take up a new job in a much more renowned company where they were working before. Like compared to that, it happens. It is going to hurt organization as well as the employee, because you lose the seniority in that particular organization where you will be driven to leadership level quite easily. So all these thought and all these aspects are there, which we as like panelists have the responsibility to think about it, and we also have as an individual to reflect on our own experiences. So it was wonderful to have such a discussion, and I will just have a quick run through of a a survey that is being conducted, a survey that I would like to conduct, which I should have conducted earlier during the start of the session, but still I would like to do it by the end of the session. There is a Menti post which will be posted to you in the chat. Just quickly give your survey results that will be presented right now. Meanwhile, while the Menti post is being posted in the chat, I will have a quick run through of a small deck that I prepared shortly. Let me share the screen. So this is a small handout kind of information that I would like to share with the team. So I'm not going to explain all the slides. I just want you to just have a look into it, and then any discussion could be taken offline. So the agenda of the session is to demystify goal, a type of framework that you can use with this particular goal setting process, and how are you going to achieve it? What are the strategies that you will be inculcating, and what will be the reinforcement power once you achieve the milestone? So goals, a focused component of the strategy pyramid that delivers a purpose and direction to realize a tangible outcome within a defined period of time. This is what we are taking ourselves as what we need to achieve. It is actually purpose driven. And there is a small video which I have linked here, the link to the change model, which is from Franklin Covey. It is going to be highly helpful to you. Just have a look into it in your free time. There are three types of goals, professional, personal, and academic goals. We did not speak much about the academic goals here because it is already tied up with the professional and personal goals. If you're going to have a rigorous time-bound way, boosting yourself in the status quo, you will have an academic goal to be projected. The professional goals are going to vary over a period of time. It depends on the team that you're working with, or it depends on the passion and zeal that you have for the subject, and it is obviously going to vary. So let's here break down what is a professional and what is an academic goal. Goals are indefinite when you speak about a professional goal. Goals are definite, fine, time-bound, and it has a long-term benefit. That is what is the main important point that we need to focus when we speak about the academic goals. Then, unlocking your potential and a guide to goal setting is quite important. We need to understand there is a theory of motivation which is required when you have to set a goal. Unless otherwise you have a motivation, a motive to achieve something, there is not going to be any goal which is going to be reflected. Which means there are a lot of internal and external factors that leads to monetary and non-monetary incentive. It might be a kind of incentive that you put that is tangible, and it is also going to be non-tangible activities. But the motivation factor should be there in you to set a goal. There are a lot of qualitative and quantitative strength assessment tools that are available, and there are a lot of methods to assess the goal, the outcome of your progress through quantitative and through quantitative and qualitative measurement assessment that could happen over a period of time by your progress, which is shown. And you will also have a way to see this, provided the links are there in this particular presentation. You will get this handout. Applying the effective framework. This is quite important to understand. There are a lot of frameworks which is available. There are a lot of mental models. How do you understand which is right for you at that point in time, at that particular instance to handle? There comes your critical thinking. There comes the way that you see the goal. There comes the way that you set the goal and the strategy that you frame for achieving the goal. So here, there are a lot of frameworks and mental models, which is also attached to this particular slide. These are the learnings and growing way. One is the productivity method, the 3-3-3 method, which is 3 hours of rigorous work and three like kind of tasks that you can complete, the micro task, and 3 ways of appreciating it, which is the productivity method that you will also discuss. The link is provided to it. The inversion mental model, as I was discussing earlier in this particular discussion, the 4 discipline of execution is highly relevant. You need to have a look into this 4X execution and the golden circle, which we have discussed earlier. There are certain highlights and considerations which I would not be going in depth, but I would like to have a look into it. I would like you all to have a look into it, that you need to consider while setting goals. SMART goals are the universally followed process of setting goals from the organization level to your personal goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, and how to set SMART goals is also attached. The goals could be like, you need to increase the annual sales revenue by 15% within a 6 months period of time. Then how are you going to achieve it? Attain a CGPA focusing on higher education degree program for the fall. How are you going to achieve it? There are certain there are certain tactics to measure your success, and these are certain metrics which is projected, but there are ways to measure this. There are technologically supporting aids which are available these days to measure the success. So we will also have a look into it in this particular slide. Overcoming obstacle is obviously not an easy task, but there are going to be obstacles in your way of growth. How are you going to effectively strategize it, and what are the common obstacles that you might encounter is what is discussed here. Let's celebrate the milestone. Yes, once you achieve a goal, you have a positive reinforcement to yourself, as well as that gets reflected to the team as well as to the organization. You will become an influencer, obviously, when you celebrate your milestone. It might be a personal milestone, or that might be tied up to your professional victory. So this positive reinforcement is required for every single individual. It doesn't matter where you stand at this point in time, but it obviously going to affect you over a period of time when you have a lot of positive reinforcement in you. Even if there isn't enough positive reinforcement, you need to boost yourself. You need to show the morale and the motivation that gets reflected, and there is obviously going to be an influencing factor in turn. There might be instances, and there are a lot of possible chances that you will encounter in future. So don't get binded by yourself of the past failures that has happened to you. Boost up yourself and appreciate the journey that you have gone through, the hard work, the small appreciations that needs to be appreciated to the small amount of work and the big amount of success which gets non-noticeable. All will be taken into account over a period of time. So celebrate the milestone. Here is a link to the tools and technology support. This is just a suggested set of tools. There are a lot many tools that is available in the market. You're free to use anything. So this is about the small handout that I would like to give to the team. So before we wind up, I will just show you the results for the first set of questions which is being asked. I would like to shortly share the screen. So here are the results. Okay. So the first question was like, how many of your students? I'll just wrap up after the session to get the number of students, working professional, and the number of people who are under career break, and I'll just consolidate the result and post it. Meanwhile, what is your current goal setting framework? Few of the results are here. One has mentioned about the Ikigai framework to set personal visualization. That is a wonderful visualization of your personal, professional, and the technology-based approach that is being handled in the Ikigai framework. Identify weakness, long-term goal setting. Like these are the words they've used to project their own current goal setting approach. So the one word that comes to your mind when you think of goal is the ambition, potential, best self, and passion. Wonderful, all of you. So I would like to see much more responses offline, and bye to everyone, to the rest of the world.
Thank you all.
Thank
It was
you.
great to
Thank you, Ria and Sahana. You were wonderful during today's session.
Thank you.